Friday night should have been perfect. I had spent the day at work imagining how I'd surprise Daniel with his favorite pasta, garlic bread, and a bottle of red wine we'd been saving. After 3 years together, routines like this had become our way of keeping the relationship alive despite his long work hours. I laid out candles, played soft music, and set the table for two. But as the clock inched toward 8 p.m., my excitement turned into impatience. Finally, my phone buzzed. I smiled, expecting him to say he was on his way. Instead, the words froze me in place. "Crashing at Lara's tonight, don't wait up." My hand trembled, the text glowing back at me like a slap. Lara wasn't just anyone. She was his co-worker, the woman whose name I'd already grown suspicious of. My heart sank, and with it, the warmth of the evening. I read the message again, hoping I had misunderstood. Maybe it was a group hangout, maybe Lara's place was hosting people from work, maybe I was overthinking. But the nonchalant tone, "Don't wait up," carried no explanation, no courtesy, just the arrogance of someone who assumed I'd accept anything he threw at me. My stomach twisted. The food on the table, once inviting, now looked cold and mocking. For a brief moment, tears pricked at my eyes, but they didn't fall. Instead, a strange calm spread through me. I realized in that instant, if he could dismiss me so easily, then I had no reason to cling to him. I typed my reply slowly, deliberately. "Good to know." Just 3 words. No begging, no confrontation, no anger. I wanted him to believe I was unaffected, that I was the quiet, forgiving girlfriend he thought he had under control. What he didn't know was that those words were the calm before the storm. I locked my phone, blew out the candles, and pushed aside the cold food. If he wanted Lara, then he could have her, but he would no longer have me waiting like a fool in the background. That night, I decided his betrayal would be met with my silence, and my action. I walked into the bedroom and looked at his side of the closet. Rows of neatly hung shirts, polished shoes lined up in order, his favorite leather jacket draped on the chair. Every item represented a piece of our life together. My chest tightened, but instead of breaking down, I grabbed a roll of tape and empty boxes I had kept from our last move. One by one, I began pulling his things down. Each hanger click, each fold, each sealed box was like stitching up a wound. I was no longer the woman who would cry into a pillow while waiting for answers. I was taking my power back. As I packed, memories rushed in, our first vacation to the mountains, the night he held me during a thunderstorm, the way he used to look at me like I was the only one in the room. But those same memories now felt cheap, hollow. Every word of love he had spoken, every promise of forever, had been shattered by one casual text. I shoved his cufflinks into a pouch, folded his gym clothes, and stacked his sneakers. With every box I sealed, I felt lighter, freer. This wasn't revenge. It was liberation. By midnight, the apartment looked different. 10 boxes stacked neatly by the front door, all of Daniel's life condensed and ready to go. I paused, staring at them, a small smile tugging at my lips. He thought he had the upper hand, sneaking around with Lara, but in reality, I had just flipped the script. He wouldn't return to his safe, cozy space. No, he would return to Lara, with no choice but to stay there. If she was so important to him, she could deal with the full package. I carried the boxes down the stairs, loading them into my car. Each trip made me feel stronger, as though I was discarding the lies and betrayal along with his shirts and jackets. The night was quiet, the streets empty, but inside me, a storm had settled into determination. Lara's apartment wasn't far, just across town. My fingers gripped the steering wheel tightly as I drove, headlights cutting through the silence. For once, I wasn't driving toward him, I was driving toward closure. When I arrived at Lara's building, I almost laughed. Bright lights glowed from the windows, and I wondered if Daniel was already inside, laughing, drinking, maybe even kissing her while believing I was home, waiting like a fool. The thought didn't sting anymore. It fueled me. A couple leaving the building held the door, and I slipped inside with the first box. Her apartment number was etched into my memory from the time she'd tagged it on social media. I walked the hallway with steady steps, heart pounding not from fear, but from power. Box by box, I stacked his belongings neatly outside her door. Shoes, suits, t-shirts, books, even his favorite mug, it was all there. Finally, I took out a small folded note I had written on the drive. I taped it to the top box. It read, "He's all yours now. Take good care." My handwriting was steady, not a single tear smudging the ink. I stood there for a moment, staring at the pile of his life waiting for him, and felt a strange sense of peace. This wasn't about anger anymore, it was about ending things on my terms. The drive back home felt surreal. The apartment I walked into no longer felt shared, it felt like mine. His cologne wasn't in the air, his shoes weren't by the door, his jacket wasn't on the chair. For the first time in years, I looked around and saw freedom. I showered, slipped into pajamas, and climbed into bed. No crying, no restless tossing. Just calm. I had made my choice and it was final. At 3 a.m., my phone buzzed violently, the ringtone breaking through the silence. "Daniel." I let it ring twice before answering. His voice exploded through the line. Panicked, angry, desperate. "What the hell did you do? Why are my things at Lara's? Are you insane?" His words spilled out in frantic waves, but I remained silent for a moment, letting him drown in his own confusion. Finally I replied, calm and cold, "You made your choice, Daniel. I just helped you live with it." He stuttered, tried to explain. "It's not what you think. I was just too drunk to drive home. Lara was being nice. Nothing happened." His excuses tumbled out one after another, but the panic in his tone betrayed him. He hadn't expected me to react, hadn't expected consequences. He thought I would cry, beg, forgive. But all he got was silence. I ended the call with a simple, "Good night, Daniel." The calls didn't stop. He rang again, left voicemails, sent texts. "Please, I love you. It's not like that with Lara. Don't throw away what we have." By sunrise, I had dozens of unread messages. But I didn't need to read them. Because the moment he dismissed me with, "Don't wait up," he had already thrown away what we had. All I did was return the favor. By morning, I blocked his number. My apartment was quiet, sunlight streaming through the blinds like a promise of a new beginning. I brewed coffee and sat at the table where last night's uneaten dinner still sat. I cleared it away, humming softly. This was my space now. No more waiting for a man who didn't value me. No more competing with the woman who had always lingered in the shadows of our relationship. Over the next few days, I learned from mutual friends that Daniel was furious. Not at himself, but at me. He told people I had overreacted, that I had embarrassed him by leaving his things at Lara's door. But behind his bravado, I knew the truth. I had taken away his safety net. He couldn't juggle me and Lara anymore. He had to face the reality of his choices. Meanwhile, Lara apparently wasn't thrilled about the boxes. Rumors swirled that she hadn't signed up to be his live-in girlfriend overnight. The idea of him showing up at her place with his entire wardrobe, dumped on her doorstep by his actual girlfriend, wasn't exactly the romantic scenario she wanted. I smiled when I heard. Actions have consequences, and both of them were learning that the hard way. Daniel tried one last time. He showed up at my apartment building a week later. I didn't answer the buzzer. Through the intercom, I heard his voice pleading, promising, swearing he'd change. I stood there quietly, listening for a moment, and then walked away. He no longer had the power to move me. The man I once loved was gone, replaced by a liar who underestimated my strength. In the weeks that followed, I rebuilt my routine. I went to work, I reconnected with friends, I started taking long walks in the evening. For the first time in years, I was prioritizing myself. The weight of betrayal had lifted, replaced with something far stronger: self-respect. Whenever I thought of that text, crashing at Lara's, "Don't wait up," I no longer felt pain. I felt gratitude. Because in that moment, Daniel revealed who he truly was, and gave me the chance to walk away. Sometimes people think betrayal breaks you, and for a moment it does. It cracks something inside. But for me, those cracks let the light in. I had seen Daniel's true colors, and instead of clinging to false love, I had chosen myself. His late-night panic calls, his excuses, his begging, none of it mattered anymore. He was no longer my problem. Looking back now, I realize one text message changed everything. It wasn't the night I lost him, it was the night I found myself. His clothes outside Lara's door weren't just boxes of fabric and shoes, they were a statement. A reminder that I will never again accept being second choice. When Daniel thought he was winning, sneaking off to Lara's, he didn't realize he was actually handing me my freedom. And I took it. With steady hands, a roll of tape, and the quiet strength of a woman who refuses to settle for less than she deserves.